Imagine you've been waiting, like your entire life, to open this heavily guarded time capsule.
Oh, right. The ultimate vault.
Exactly. And you've been told that inside this vault sits the unvarnished truth about human history,
Hmm.
the mechanics of the universe, our actual place in the cosmos. I mean, people have protested for this.
Whistleblowers have literally risked their freedom whispering about what's inside.
Yeah, decades of legal warfare just to get the combination to the lock. And then finally, the day arrives. The heavy steel door groans open.
You're expecting the blueprints of reality.
Right. You step inside, heart pounding, and what do you actually find? Sitting under a spotlight on a pedestal is a single, slightly out-of-focus Polaroid picture and a handful of heavily redacted sticky notes.
It's just the ultimate anticlimax. I mean, it's practically designed to frustrate the people who've been seeking the truth the hardest.
Totally.
But the thing is, the sheer existence of that Polaroid and those sticky notes, that is tangible proof that the vault itself is real.
Which is huge. The myth of the vault is shattered.
Exactly. It's replaced by a physical reality, even if the contents they gave us are incredibly meager. We are basically standing at the epicenter of this profound geopolitical contradiction right now.
And that is exactly what we are dissecting today on this deep dive. The fallout of May 8th, 2026. The internet is already calling it Small Disclosure Day.
It's a very fitting name, honestly.
Yeah. So our mission today, for you listening, is to cut through all the noise, the internet frenzy, the partisan spin, and just look at the hard data.
Because there's a lot of spin right now.
So much spin. We're working off a really comprehensive broadcast from News Nation. It features investigative journalist Ross Coulthart, former intelligence official Lou Elizondo, imaging expert Billy Kryzak, and researchers like Rob Jones and UAP Group.
Which is a heavy-hitting lineup.
It really is. And our goal is to answer one central question. Is this release of 162 document actually the genuine beginning of a disclosure about UFOs and alien life by the U.S. government? Or is it just a highly calculated, legally protected distraction?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right. So, okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the raw metrics of the release, just to understand the game being played here.
Yeah, the numbers themselves actually reveal a lot about the strategy of the agencies involved.
Right. So the administration is formally calling this the first tranche, right?
Yes. And we are looking at exactly 162 records. When you break down where those files came from, it gets interesting. You get 82 records from the Department of War, which was formerly the DoD.
Okay, 82 from them.
Then 56 records from the FBI, 12 from NASA, 8 from the State Department, and 28 unresolved UAP videos.
Okay, wait. The FBI files stand out to me immediately because the source material explicitly notes that a vast majority of those 56 FBI documents have actually been out there for years.
Right. They've been circulating in the public domain. They were previously released through routine Freedom of Information Act requests.
So packaging them into this grand small disclosure day feels a bit like, I don't know, like padding the word count on a high school essay.
That's a perfect way to put it. They're just trying to meet a minimum requirement so it looks substantial.
And of course, padding the release like that inevitably triggers a polarized political response, which we really need to map out impartially here because the political framing dictates how the public digests this data.
Oh, absolutely. The narrative is everything.
So on one side, you have President Trump, who issued the directive for this release, framing it as a monumental leap forward.
Right. His stance was really centered on this idea of complete and maximum transparency.
Yeah, he was basically telling the public, you know, what the hell is going on? Have fun and enjoy.
Yeah.
He positioned the 162 documents as a massive victory lap for transparency.
But then the blowback from within his own political wing was, like, immediate and fierce.
Oh, yeah. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene took a highly critical stance. She called the whole 162 document release shiny objects propaganda.
Right. Her argument operates entirely on the premise of misdirection. She views this as a deliberate, tactical distraction.
A distraction from what, exactly?
From other pressing issues, specifically the ongoing foreign wars and the unsealed Epstein files. Her threshold for what counts as disclosure is absolute.
Meaning she wants the real deal.
Exactly. Unless the government is rolling out live biological entities or, I don't know, doing public test flights of recovered UAP hardware, she just views this as political theater.
Which is a valid perspective to hold.
Yeah.
But then, simultaneously, you have members of the UAP caucus looking at the exact same 162 files and seeing a massive victory.
Yeah, Representative Eric Burleson called this the tip of the iceberg.
Right, arguing that even a small release, represents this monumental shift away from the decades of just dismissing and mocking the topic.
And Representative Tim Burchett went on the record before the release with that great phrase, "Holy crap is coming."
Yeah, he argued that this initial drop, however small, sets a legal and historical precedent that you just can't undo.
Exactly. So you have maximum transparency, a total distraction, and the tip of the iceberg, all as competing narratives for the exact same out-of-focus Polaroid.
It's wild. But Lou Elizondo synthesizes this chaos brilliantly. He introduces a concept that's apparently heavily utilized within the intelligence community.
Right, socialization. He argues that looking at this release as an attempt at telling the whole truth is a category error.
A category error. Okay, explain that.
Well, this 162 document tranche is basically a sociological test balloon. The government is not really trying to inform the public, they're trying to measure the public.
Oh, wow. So they're dropping a controlled data set to see what happens.
Exactly. It's highly sanitized. They want to gauge the psychological reaction of the populace, the investigative appetite of the media, and even the geopolitical posturing of adversaries like China and Russia.
So they want to see the ripples before they drop a boulder into the pond.
You nailed it. They are dipping a toe in the water before doing a cannonball into the deep end.
I mean, I get the logic of socialization, but the mechanics of it seem so flawed to me. If you're dealing with a public that is already deeply skeptical.
How so?
Well, think about modern marketing. If a movie studio wants to socialize the idea of a massive, risky, new sci-fi franchise, they don't release a trailer that's just blurry storyboards and outtakes.
True.
They release a trailer with the most jaw-dropping, high-fidelity CGI they have. They want to eliminate skepticism immediately and replace it with awe.
Right, you want to hook the audience.
Exactly. So if the government actually wants to socialize the reality of non-human intelligence, releasing low-hanging fruit like blurry videos and recycled FBI memos seems totally counterproductive.
It invites mockery.
Yes, it allows the debunkers to control the narrative. So my question is it possible the studio is holding back the blockbuster footage? Or is this blurry padded release actually the absolute best evidence the U.S. government has?
Oh, the internal documentation from the Department of War definitively answers that. It is absolutely not all they have.
Really? How do we know for sure?
Because in their own formal response to the president's directive, the department acknowledged that they possess literally tens of millions of documents related to this topic.
Wait, tens of millions?
Yes, including vast archives of physical hard copies. Tens of millions. Elizondo agreed with the drop-in-the-bucket analogy, but expanded it. He called this release a drop in the proverbial ocean.
So releasing 162 highly sanitized files out of tens of millions, that's just a masterclass in narrative control.
Exactly. Because if you release the high-fidelity, undeniable footage, your blockbuster trailer analogy, you instantly induce ontological shock.
Ontological shock. That's a heavy term.
It is. The public doesn't just go, wow, cool aliens. Global financial markets react. Religious institutions face existential crises, and people immediately question the competence of the military.
Because the military is failing to secure our airspace against these objects.
Exactly. You are talking about a fundamental rupture in an individual's worldview.
It's like the difference between hearing a rumor that a tiger is loose in your city and opening your front door to find the tiger just sitting on your porch.
Right, and the government is managing the flow of information to prevent the tiger from showing up on the porch.
But we know the tiger is real because the source material dives deep into the specific, physics-defying evidence that Elizondo and others have viewed behind closed doors. This is the hidden trove.
Yeah, Elizondo provided a really granular description of the ultra-high-definition evidence that resides in that trove of tens of millions of files.
Tell me about the 4K video.
So, while he was supporting the UAP task force at U.S. Space Force, he reviewed an unreleased 4K ultra-high-definition video. We are talking about pristine, full-color, modern sensor data.
So no blurring, no camera artifacts.
None. And the video displays an extremely large object operating underwater at speeds that completely defy the established laws of hydrodynamics.
The underwater aspect completely changes the paradigm for me. I think the general public default is to look at the sky for UAPs.
Oh, for sure.
But operating in an aquatic environment introduces physical barriers that are unimaginably punishing. I mean, water is approximately 800 times denser than air.
Right.
If you've ever tried to sprint while waist-deep in a swimming pool, you have felt that exponential increase in drag. It's exhausting.
In naval engineering, the limiting factor for any vessel is something called hull speed.
Okay, what is that?
As an object pushes through water, it creates a bow wave. The faster it goes, the longer the wave.
Hmm.
Eventually, the object is literally trapped in the trough of its own wave.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and pushing it faster requires an exponential, almost impossible increase in energy. To overcome this, human engineering relies on supercavitation.
Supercavitation. Is that what the Russians use?
Exactly. The Russian military developed a torpedo called the Shkval. It expels exhaust gases out of its nose to create a bubble of gas around the entire torpedo.
So it's not even really touching the water,
Right, because it's traveling through gas instead of water, it eliminates skin friction.
Hmm.
It can reach speeds of roughly 230 miles per hour underwater.
which from a naval warfare perspective, 230 miles per hour underwater is terrifying.
It's incredibly fast for human tech. But based on the intelligence analysis of that 4K video, the object Elizondo saw wasn't doing 230 miles per hour.
It was faster.
It was moving at speeds that make the Shkval look totally stationary. And crucially, Elizondo noted that the footage contained man-made features in the immediate vicinity of the object.
Oh, meaning it wasn't just a blob in the open ocean.
Exactly. Analysts had fixed points of reference. They could calculate exact size, scale, and velocity. The conclusion wasn't just a probability, it was an absolute certainty that the object exceeded human technological capabilities.
That is wild. And where was this filmed?
This footage was captured over what the intelligence community designates as denied areas, highly restricted, sensitive airspace or waters belonging to foreign adversaries.
The presence of the object in denied areas elevates this entirely. It takes it from a scientific curiosity to a Tier 1 national security crisis.
Absolutely. It means our sensors are tracking objects operating with total impunity inside the most heavily defended regions on Earth.
And neither we nor our adversaries can do anything to impede them.
Nothing. And the hydrodynamics are actually only the beginning of the physics problem here.
There's more.
Oh yeah. Elizondo disclosed that our most sophisticated orbiting platform is the classified satellite architecture, designed to track ballistic missile launches. They are capturing hard telemetry data of these objects,
Doing what?
performing maneuvers at 2,000, 3,000, and 4,000 G-forces.
Okay, let's break down the math of 4,000 Gs. Because I think the human brain genuinely struggles to comprehend that level of violence.
He really does.
G-force is a measure of acceleration that produces a perception of weight. So when you sit in a chair, you're experiencing 1 G.
Right.
If you ride a roller coaster and hit a sharp loop, you might experience 3 or 4 Gs. Your body feels 3 or 4 times heavier than normal.
Which is already intense for most people.
Super intense. Now, the absolute biological limit for a highly trained fighter pilot wearing a specialized pressurized G-suit that squeezes their legs to force blood back into their brain is about 9 Gs.
And they can only sustain that for seconds.
Exactly. Just seconds before GLOC, G-force-induced loss of consciousness.
Yeah.
At 9 Gs, the cardiovascular system just cannot pump blood against the gravitational pressure.
So the biological threshold is 9 Gs. But the mechanical threshold is not much higher.
Let's talk about the mechanics then.
If we look at the F-16 fighter jet, an airframe engineered from titanium alloys and advanced composites, designed specifically for extreme aerodynamic stress, the unclassified structural limit is roughly 17 to 18 Gs.
So what happens at 18 Gs?
Catastrophic structural failure. The sheer force rips the wings off the fuselage, and the metal literally disintegrates in midair.
Okay, so biology turns to mush at 9 Gs. Advanced military metallurgy tears itself into shrapnel at 18 Gs.
Right.
And the telemetry data from our orbital platforms is clocking objects at 4,000 Gs.
It's unthinkable.
The inertial force is just apocalyptic. Think of it this way, for everyone listening. Imagine you were driving a car at 30 miles per hour.
Okay.
You instantly reverse to 30 miles per hour in the exact opposite direction. It's a 60 mile per hour swing of inertial force.
Which would total the car and seriously injure you.
Right. Now imagine a craft traveling at Mach 10 and it instantaneously stops. It doesn't decelerate. It stops in 0 seconds and then instantaneously reverses direction at Mach 10.
The inertial swing acting on the mass of that object at 4,000 Gs would instantly vaporize any known material. Carbon fiber, titanium, diamond, it doesn't matter. It would be reduced to dust.
So how does anything survive that?
Well, this is exactly why Elizondo stated this data is enough to change your religion.
Right.
You cannot build a better titanium box to survive 4,000 Gs.
So the physics are wrong.
The physics dictate that the object is not interacting with the environment in a conventional manner. It requires an entirely different paradigm of propulsion,
Like what?
something theoretical physicists refer to as metric engineering.
Metric engineering. Okay, what is that?
The leading hypothesis is that these crafts are projecting a localized space-time bubble around themselves. They aren't pushing through space, they are bending the space-time metric around the hull.
Oh, wow. So they're isolated from the environment.
Exactly. Inside the bubble, the craft is essentially in free fall, experiencing zero Gs, while the bubble itself moves through the external environment at impossible speeds.
So it's the only theoretical framework that explains how an object survives an instantaneous 90-degree turn at 4,000 Gs without being obliterated by its own inertial mass.
It's the only way the math works.
I mean, metric engineering implies a mastery over the fundamental forces of the universe that makes our internal combustion engines look like we're still rubbing sticks together to make fire.
We are so far behind.
And that technological disparity brings us to a crucial pivot in the source material. Because while these physics-defying maneuvers in our oceans and atmosphere are currently breaking the minds of our aerodynamicists,
Right.
some of the most historically compelling evidence in this release doesn't actually come from the ocean. It comes from a vacuum, where aerodynamics and fluid friction don't even apply.
You're talking about the lunar anomalies.
Yes.
Yes.
We have to look at the newly released files concerning the moon and the absolute dilemma this creates for NASA.
The inclusion of NASA documentation in this tranche is politically explosive. Because for decades, NASA has functioned as the institutional authority on space.
And they've maintained a really rigid public stance.
Unyielding. They have insisted there is zero evidence of anomalous phenomena. The source actually highlights that NASA Administrator Bill Nelson explicitly went on the record denying the existence of UAP files or evidence.
But the documents released on May 8 flatly contradict the administrator's statements.
Completely.
The tranche includes pristine imagery and documentation from the Apollo 11 mission in 1969 and the Apollo 17 mission in 1972. And we aren't talking about smudges on a lens here.
No, not cosmic ray artifacts hitting the film either. We're talking about physical anomalous objects orbiting the moon.
Sharing the exact same operational theater as our astronauts. Let's talk about the specific Apollo 17 image.
Yeah, that image is the centerpiece of this contradiction. It clearly displays three anomalous dots maintaining a rigid geometric triangular formation.
Where in the image?
Down in the lower right-hand quadrant of the lunar sky. And what elevates this from just an internet conspiracy theory to a matter of national record is the Department of War's new preliminary analysis that was attached to the release.
What did they conclude?
Their official assessment suggests that the triangular feature is potentially the result of a physical, structured object in the scene.
That's a massive admission. And the visual evidence is corroborated by the raw audio transcripts from the astronauts.
The audio is incredible to listen to.
Right. These aren't stories told decades later at some UFO convention. These are the live, pristine communications of highly trained test pilots describing what they're seeing out the window of the command module.
The transcripts include the Apollo crew calling out a bogey at 7-0.
And the lunar module pilot describing anomalous objects drifting by that looked like the 4th of July.
Yeah, and the broadcast also pulls in the historical accounts of astronaut Edgar Mitchell, who was the lunar module pilot for Apollo 14.
He was very vocal about this.
He was. He didn't use vague terms. He explicitly reported observing blue objects, actively tracking the command module, and physically surveilling their descent to the lunar surface.
So what's fascinating here is the behavior of NASA as an institution in the face of this data. It's a study in self-preservation. Why lie for over 50 years?
It's all about institutional ego and survival.
Right. Why would an agency founded on pushing the boundaries of human knowledge actively suppress the greatest discovery in the history of science?
Elizondo points out the harsh reality of bureaucratic survival. NASA receives billions of dollars in taxpayer funding based on the premise that they are the undisputed global experts on space.
They're supposed to be the smartest people in the room.
Exactly.
And if you are the smartest person in the room, admitting that someone else is in the room and that they didn't even rely on rocket propellant or oxidizers to beat you to the moon in 1969, that is a massive blow to your prestige and your funding.
It shatters their entire mythology.
Because the Apollo program was our crowning achievement. We used millions of pounds of highly explosive chemical propellant, basically controlled bombs, to push a tin can across the vacuum of space.
It was crude, but magnificent.
But to admit that while we were struggling just to survive the journey, a highly advanced intelligence was already there, hovering silently, just casually watching us land. It makes our greatest achievement look like a toddler taking their first steps while an adult watches.
The skeptical counterargument to this, though, which is always the first line of defense, is to attribute these anomalies to human activity.
Okay, let's play devil's advocate. Could those triangular dots in the Apollo 17 image just be a constellation of early human satellites?
Elizondo dismantles this entirely. While modern satellite constellations like Starlink operate in tight formations, the technological reality of 1969 and 1972 makes that totally impossible around the moon.
Clarify the timeline for us.
We barely had the computational power and launch capability to put the lunar module and the command orbiter in the lunar sphere of influence. Elizondo described the Apollo orbiter as essentially a space bus stop.
A space bus stop. I love that.
Yeah, there was absolutely no secret parallel space program deploying a web of human-made surveillance satellites around the moon in the 60s or 70s. The objects in the imagery are not ours.
That brings up a chilling observation made by Billy Kryzak, the imaging expert, regarding Edgar Mitchell's account of the blue objects.
This is a really crucial point.
Kryzak pointed out a fundamental reality about the vacuum of space. When we see a UAP glowing in our atmosphere, we can hypothesize that the light is a byproduct of propulsion, like plasma ionizing the air.
Right, friction.
But space is a vacuum. There's no air to ionize. If an object is emitting bright blue lights in the absolute darkness of a vacuum, it's not a byproduct of atmospheric friction.
No, Kryzak argues that if you turn on a light in a vacuum, you aren't doing it to illuminate your path. You are doing it because you want to be seen.
It is a deliberate, calculated statement of presence.
Exactly. An intelligence capable of interstellar travel, possessing metric engineering, certainly possesses the capability to remain stealthy from our primitive 1960s radar.
So by illuminating themselves, they are intentionally breaking stealth.
They are signaling to the astronauts, we are here, we are watching you, and we want you to know we are watching you.
It's almost an assertion of dominance, or at the very least a psychological test to observe how we react.
It's a terrifying thought.
And that transition from the cold, silent vacuum of space to the chaotic skies of our own atmosphere brings us to the most bizarre aspect of the May 8 release.
The modern videos.
Yes, because while the Apollo images are historical, the modern videos released today introduce an entirely new typology of UAPs.
We are no longer relying on generic terms like flying saucer or tic-tac.
Right, the intelligence community and civilian experts are cataloging a bizarre, almost sci-fi array of objects operating in our airspace. Let's get into the specific classes analyzed by Billy Kryzak.
Yeah, the work of Kryzak and the civilian science community is vital here. Groups like Skywatcher have been compiling data for years, trying to categorize these objects based on shape, thermal signature, and flight characteristics.
And the government videos released in this tranche basically serve as a stunning validation of their civilian classifications.
We are looking at recurring, highly specific structural designs. It suggests specialized functions, much like our own Air Force has different airframes for bombers, fighters, and recon.
The descriptions read like a xenobiology textbook. Let's start with what they designate as Class 7, the jellyfish.
Wow, the jellyfish.
This morphology was captured in video PR-29 from the UAE in June 2024 and another video labeled PR-28. To call it a jellyfish isn't a loose metaphor. It is an exact structural description.
It really is. It features a central balloon-like or orb-shaped main body with highly detailed appendages hanging beneath it.
And Kryzak stressed that the visual fidelity in these videos rules out prosaic explanations, right? Like a cluster of balloons or airborne debris.
Oh, completely. The appendages are not loose strings caught in the wind. They possess visible nodules, structural rigidity, and intentionality.
And the flight characteristics eliminate the balloon hypothesis too.
Right, balloons are entirely at the mercy of the ambient wind currents. But the jellyfish objects demonstrate independent agency.
Meaning they move on their own.
Yeah, they've been recorded cruising parallel to the wind, abruptly shifting to move directly against the wind, or even accelerating to velocities far exceeding the wind speed. They are actively navigating.
The theoretical frameworks attempting to explain the jellyfish are where this gets incredibly profound. Kryzak outlines two primary working theories.
And both of them fundamentally rewrite our understanding of reality.
So theory one, the jellyfish is not a machine. It is quite literally a biological life form.
Living its entire life cycle in our upper atmosphere.
Yes. Under this theory, those dangling appendages are its feeding apparatus. It's filtering microorganisms, airborne nutrients, or even electrical energy from the atmosphere.
Much like a deep-sea jellyfish filters plankton in the ocean currents. It postulates an entire atmospheric ecosystem that our science has completely missed.
Maybe because they operate at altitudes or within electromagnetic spectrums that evade our standard biological survey.
Exactly. But the second theory is equally staggering.
Right. Theory 2 posits that the jellyfish is a biomechanical ISR drone. Intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance.
Biomimicry.
We see this in our own bleeding-edge drone research. We build drones that look like birds or insects to avoid detection.
And to utilize the aerodynamic efficiencies discovered by millions of years of evolution.
If a non-human intelligence is a million years ahead of us, their technology might be completely indistinguishable from biology.
They might actually grow their drones organically, rather than assembling them in a factory, deploying these biosynthetic jellyfish globally to monitor our military installations, our cities.
And the fact that they are frequently sighted over war zones and sensitive geopolitical hotspots strongly suggests a programmed surveillance directive, not just the random drifting of a wild animal.
It's a sobering thought. And the typology only gets stranger from there. We move from the biological mimicry of the jellyfish to the rigid, mathematically impossible geometry of Class 10, the tesseract.
The tesseract. This was captured in video PR26, right?
Yes. It is described as a perfect geometric cube, but with smaller cubes attached to or extruding from its points.
Which is just bizarre to visualize.
And internally, the structure is not solid. It contains channels or conduits that are actively cycling with colored plasma, shifting between magenta, green, red, blue, and aqua.
I mean, from an aerodynamic perspective, a cube is literally the worst shape you could possibly design for atmospheric flight. It maximizes drag and air resistance.
To fly a cube, you have to completely nullify the atmosphere around it.
But the cycling plasma is the detail that catches my attention. Plasma is ionized gas, basically the fourth state of matter. In our own experimental propulsion physics, we use magnetohydrodynamics.
Using magnetic fields to accelerate plasma and generate thrust.
Right, and the varying colors of the plasma magenta, green, blue, correspond to different elemental gases being ionized at varying energy states.
So the tesseract isn't just a flying box.
Like a visible, active propulsion engine. It's potentially utilizing advanced magnetohydrodynamics or even harvesting atmospheric gases, ionizing them, and cycling them through its structure to maintain that localized spacetime bubble we talked about.
And the energy required to maintain that kind of propulsion brings us to another object. The one in video PR38, designated as the cruciform, or the eight-pointed star.
Right, let's talk about the cruciform. This object was recorded using highly advanced, cooled thermal military sensors.
Unlike standard optical cameras, which see visible light, these sensors detect heat signatures. The object leaves a distinct thermal trail, but the shape itself appears as a massive glowing eight-pointed star.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because this is where the skeptics and debunkers plant their flag.
Oh, they love this one.
They look at the eight-pointed star and immediately dismiss it as a basic optical illusion known as a diffraction spike. I mean, anyone who has ever pointed their iPhone camera directly at a street lamp at night or at the sun at high noon knows what a diffraction spike is.
Right, the intense light hits the edge of the aperture and scatters, creating a starburst pattern on the image sensor.
Is a flaw in the camera, not the shape of the object. So they argue the cruciform is just a standard jet engine viewed through a glitchy lens.
But Kryzak actually leans into the physics of the debunker's argument, and he uses it to prove the extraordinary nature of the object.
How does he do that?
He agrees that the star shape is almost certainly a diffraction spike. It's an optical artifact caused by the sensor system attempting to process an overwhelming input of energy.
Okay.
However, he introduces the critical context of the hardware being used. The military does not use iPhones.
Right. What are they using?
They use cryogenically cooled mid-wave infrared thermal systems, or MWIR. These sensors are specifically engineered with anti-blooming technology to prevent exactly this kind of diffraction.
Oh, wow.
They're designed to look directly at the hyper-intense thermal exhaust of an enemy ballistic missile or a fighter jet afterburner without the sensor blinding itself.
So if the military's most advanced thermal sensor is specifically designed not to bloom, and it is ballooning into a massive eight-pointed star, the implication is staggering.
It means the object in the center of that starburst is generating a thermal signature that makes a ballistic missile exhaust look cold.
And Kryzak estimates that the actual physical craft causing the spike is relatively small, right?
Yeah, perhaps the size of an egg or maybe one of those 40-foot Tic Tacs.
But that small object is emitting an energy output that completely overwhelms the anti-ballooning fail-safes of the military's best hardware. It's not a standard aircraft LED. It's not a halogen light.
It is a concentrated energy source operating at temperatures that defy conventional propulsion thermodynamics. The camera is basically screaming in agony because it's staring at an artificial sun.
And wait, there's one more, right? The instantaneous maneuverer.
Oh, PR-34. Captured in Greece, October 2023. This one flies near the ocean at about 80 mph and then executes these instantaneous 90-degree turns.
Which goes back to the inertial forces we were discussing earlier. Surviving those turns is impossible for any standard craft.
Completely impossible.
And this brings us to the central, agonizing contradiction of this entire May 8 release. If we have videos of flying tesseracts and atmospheric jellyfish and thermal entities burning with the intensity of a star, why is the 4K ultra-high-definition video of the massive underwater craft still locked in the vault?
Right. If they're willing to show us the Tesseract, what are they so terrified of showing us in that underwater video?
This question really forces us to pivot from the physics of the objects to the architecture of the cover-up itself. We have to look at the gatekeepers, the secret laws, and the entities that wield the true power over disclosure.
To understand the power dynamics, you have to look at who is conspicuously absent from Small Disclosure Day.
The missing agencies.
Exactly. The 162 documents came from the Department of War, the FBI, NASA, and the State Department. But the true heavy hitters of the intelligence community contributed absolutely nothing.
Who are we missing?
The Department of Energy, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, the National Reconnaissance Office, the NSA, and the CIA. Completely missing from this release.
The absence of the Department of Energy, the DOE, is the most critical red flag for any serious researcher, isn't it?
It is. The general public views the DOE as the agency that manages wind farms, nuclear power plants, and the national grid. They seem totally disconnected from aerospace anomalies.
But historically and legally, the DOE is the ultimate black box for UAP secrets. Their power derives from the Atomic Energy Act of 1954.
Yes. The Atomic Energy Act created a legal classification category known as restricted data.
This is fundamentally different from the standard national security classifications of secret or top secret, right?
Radically different. Restricted data is born secret. The moment a concept related to nuclear material or atomic energy is theorized, it is legally classified.
And crucially, unlike standard classified info, the President of the United States does not have the unilateral authority to declassify restricted data. The DOE holds ultimate statutory authority.
And the connection between the DOE and UAPs is undeniable. Decades of unclassified military reports show a profound statistical correlation between UAP activity and our nuclear infrastructure.
They've systematically surveilled, hovered over, and in some documented cases, actively interfered with our nuclear capabilities.
They have been sighted at the Savannah River Facility, Oak Ridge National Laboratory, Los Alamos, and numerous ICBM silo fields.
So if a UAP is utilizing any form of atomic decay, radioactive isotope, or nuclear propulsion system,
the moment it is retrieved or analyzed, it falls under the draconian, inescapable jurisdiction of the DOE and the Atomic Energy Act. The Department of War couldn't disclose it even if they wanted to.
which brings us to the organization ostensibly created by Congress to solve this mystery. AARO, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office.
AARO was supposed to be the public-facing investigative body that would drag these secrets into the light.
But the researcher UAP Gerb highlights massive conflicts of interest that basically render AARO impotent, specifically pointing to its former director, Sean Kirkpatrick.
Right. After stepping down from AARO, Kirkpatrick immediately transitioned into roles at Oak Ridge National Laboratory and MITRE.
MITRE and Oak Ridge are not just neutral scientific laboratories. They are vital nodes in the defense contractor ecosystem.
MITRE operates federally funded research and development centers, and they are heavily implicated in the whistleblower testimonies surrounding legacy UAP retrieval programs.
These are the shadow operations that have allegedly been recovering, storing, and trying to reverse engineer non-human technology since Roswell.
So when you have the former head of the government's UAP investigation office moving seamlessly into the very defense contractor ecosystem accused of hiding the hardware,
UAP Gerb correctly identifies this as the fox in the henhouse dilemma.
it is the ultimate self-licking ice cream cone. Congress mandates the Department of War and AARO to investigate themselves.
To dig through their own filing cabinets to find the illegal special access programs they've been hiding from oversight for 80 years.
What is the outcome of that investigation going to be? It will inevitably conclude that no such programs exist because the perpetrators of the cover-up are running the audit.
A real, transparent disclosure cannot originate from the agencies that built the vault. It requires an aggressive, outside entity with the statutory teeth to execute search warrants, like the DOJ or the Department of Homeland Security.
The problem is that even the DOJ faces insurmountable legal barricades.
What kind of barricades?
Elizondo explicitly references Executive Order 123, which governs United States intelligence activities. This order, combined with Title 10 and Title 50 authorities, provides absolute, airtight legal protection for authorized covert operations.
So it's basically a framework of secret laws.
Yes. Operating much like the FISA courts, they legally prohibit the disclosure of sources, methods, and the very existence of these operations.
Let me get this straight. If a UAP retrieval program is classified under a Title 50 covert action finding, the individuals managing that program are legally permitted, in fact, legally required to lie to Congress, the media, and the American public to protect the operation.
Yes, they have to lie.
But the political landscape has shifted. We've seen the congressional hearings. We've seen representatives from both sides of the aisle visibly furious about being stonewalled.
They're definitely angry.
Congress has the power of the purse. They have subpoena power. They have the constitutional authority to compel testimony. If they're so angry, why are they playing nice? Why not just kick the door down, march into the DOE or the CIA, issue subpoenas, and hold these gatekeepers in contempt of Congress until the 4K videos are released?
The hesitation of Congress is driven by what the source material describes as the JFK fear.
The JFK fear. Are we talking about assassination?
No, not assassination. It's a reference to the fear of unintentionally dismantling the national security apparatus. This isn't just about hiding the existence of aliens. It is about protecting the geopolitical supremacy of the United States.
Ah, I see.
Elizondo points out that the deep state gatekeepers are not necessarily mustache-twirling villains. They genuinely believe they're holding the line against global chaos. If Congress kicks the door down and forces the declassification of reverse engineering programs, the collateral damage could be catastrophic.
Because the moment you release the underlying physics of a UAP, you aren't just giving the world clean energy. You are giving adversaries, like Russia and China, the theoretical blueprints for weapons of mass destruction that make thermonuclear bombs look like firecrackers.
Exactly. If you reveal how much we know, or how little we have successfully reverse engineered, you expose critical vulnerabilities.
You might accidentally broadcast our own highly classified reverse-engineered capabilities,
Yeah.
totally nullifying our strategic advantage.
The gatekeepers view the secrecy as an existential necessity, and they will utilize every legal loophole, every classification mechanism, and every bureaucratic delay tactic to defend that vault.
Which leads to this bizarre contradiction of a government hiding behind extreme legal secrecy while simultaneously launching a public website literally called aliens.gov.
It is a totally schizophrenic posture.
You have the deepest mechanisms of the national security state enforcing total silence on one hand, and a website with an alien face teasing the public with 162 redacted documents on the other.
It proves that there is no monolithic government in control of this issue. There are warring factions. Some are pushing for socialization and transparency, and others are defending the legacy of secrecy at all costs.
So what does this all mean? We arrive at the end of the deep dive. We've analyzed the numbers, the political posturing, the physics-defying maneuvers in the ocean, the lunar anomalies, the biological and biomechanical typologies, and the legal fortress protecting the truth. What does this all mean for the timeline of disclosure?
It means that May 8, 2026 is historically significant, but not in the way the public hoped.
Right.
Yes, it is the genuine beginning of a disclosure process, but that process is a highly sanitized, legally fraught, and deeply compromised test balloon.
The government is basically revealing that anomalous objects are real, but they're desperately protecting the who and the how. They're offering us the blurry symptoms while locking the actual diagnosis deep within the vault. And this is exactly why you, the listener, need to care about this slow drip of information. Because whether these objects are atmospheric biology, advanced foreign drones, or non-human intelligence, they are fundamentally altering our understanding of physics.
They're altering our place in the universe and the trust we place in our institutions. We are actively transitioning from a paradigm where humanity believed itself to be the apex intelligence of the universe to a reality where we must acknowledge we are being monitored, outmaneuvered, and studied by something vastly superior.
Which brings me to a final provocative thought I want to leave you with. Building on Billy Kryzak's observation that these objects actively respond to aircraft and their environment.
Mm.
If these jellyfish and tic tacs are intelligently making course corrections, and if those blue lights over the Apollo missions were turning on just to be seen, what exactly are they trying to communicate to us?
Right. They aren't attacking, but they aren't hiding.
Exactly. And more importantly, what will they do when they decide we aren't getting the message? You came to the vault expecting the ultimate truth. We got a single puzzle piece, but the picture it's forming is looking directly back at us. Keep your eyes on the skies.